Hi, welcome to If I Did It, a show where we analyze and solve PR kerfuffles from the MMA world and beyond.
Analyze.
Anal. Well, some
Sorry.
people feel that that's what it actually is when we go through their issues, right? They feel like they've been analyzed, but it's all for it's like a colonoscopy.
It's a loving.
We're doing it for your own health and well-being. I'm your host, Alexi Old, and joining me as always is King Nate of Bloody Elbow.
Formerly
And
Kid Nate.
Formerly Kid Nate, the king formerly known as the Kid, and Eugene S. Robinson of Aussie.com, an author of Fight Everything You Ever Want to Know About Asking. We're afraid you get your ass kicked for asking.
Nice, nice. Hey, do you think you're gonna have a hard time with King Mo with that name switch? You guys gonna have to duke it out?
Hard time with King Mo anyway. So.
Oh, really? Since when?
Well, he's never got after me personally, but he did threaten to somehow get physical, I believe, with Brent Brookhouse when Brent Brookhouse was the editor of Bloody Elbows. So.
For
Man,
what
that's
reason?
him, not you.
For what reason? Brent's a good guy.
I can't remember the details, but it was some serious nonsense. I think Brent was critiquing Mo's striking technique at the same time that some other people were making racist slurs at Mo on Twitter, and he lumped them all in together.
I
He
see.
didn't really see a distinction between calling him the N-word and saying he really needs to work on that left hook. So
You can't be so easily manipulated that people use the N. Last time a guy used the N-word with me, I said, I see where you're coming from, but if you want to fight me, there are easier ways to do it.
call Eugene.
And he just looked at me confusedly, like I said, all you got to do is ask. You don't have to embarrass you and me.
Yeah, and I've got no interest in any physical conflict with King Mo, but So.
Well, you're a king also, so
Well, it's
there's
different
some kings
realms.
who like
Different
on
realms.
stuff, and there are other kings who do not want to be touched. Don't touch the king.
Exactly, and
You
also
can kiss the ring if you're asked. If I
King-
invite you to kiss the ring or kiss the royal feet.
and if King Mo were to get in a conflict, I would have to question his royalty. So,
Oh,
Yeah, right.
what realm exactly is Mo the king of? Would be my question. But
All right, we got a show to do.
yes,
So, should I go with the first question of this
go,
infamous?
go. Do the show.
All right, Eugene.
Now, lead with me though. Lead with me.
Okay.
So much for autonomy.
He's taking this king thing a little too seriously.
Yeah, I
right?
know.
He's like,
Give him a little power.
Heavy
Look what
weighs
happens.
the crown. I already dissed King Mo. I didn't mean to do that. Look at this shit stirring you're doing.
Man, sympathy for King Mo now.
Mhm.
So, King Nate, you're the UFC PR team. Following Saturday's decision to ban Ariel Helwani and two other MMA fighting staffers for life, a decision which Dana White told TMZ Monday would stand, quote, as long as I'm president of this company, end quote. Helwani and his team, a.k.a. the Helwani 3, were reinstated Monday night. Now you appear to be sending surrogates after Helwani, with Joe Rogan alleging that the UFC told Helwani that if he continued to release insider information, the UFC would fire all suspected moles and, quote, ruin people's lives, end quote. And Colin Cowherd calling Helwani a, quote, paid shill, end quote, on his Fox Sports 1 show. What's your messaging goal here?
When you're in a hole, stop digging. First thing I got to say, I got to recuse myself from any comments on Ariel Helwani's conduct because I work for Vox Media. Ariel Helwani works for Vox Media. Anything, I could say all kinds of shit, but anything I say would just be corporate spin. So I'm just going to take myself right out of there because my interests, Helwani's success is my success. So I'm not.
Oh, wait a minute. You woke me up with that word success.
I
I haven't been thinking about things that way.
Let's
Leave
not-
that man alone. Leave that man alone. Wait a minute. I completely changed my position now. Okay.
Yeah. But I am going to comment about the UFC's own goal here. This is an unforced error. Had they let Ariel alone, no matter what they think, like if Lorenzo's head exploded when he read the Brock news on his phone before the fight started, too bad for Lorenzo. But, you have a great night of fights, and then people are talking about the great night of fights. come Sunday morning, you don't care about Ariel Helwani scooping you by an hour and a half on the Brock Lesnar news because you had such a great event. You're moving on down the road, you know. Instead, they pull Ariel Helwani. It becomes a Twitter storm right before the main event, and this nonsense actually overshadowed the main event, which was a great main event, an upset win by a long-time popular or notorious figure in MMA. A lot of people, even people that don't like Bisping, were really excited for him to see him get the upset knockout over Luke Rockhold. And instead, it's all completely overshadowed by this nonsensical decision to not only ban Ariel, but also Esther and Casey, who didn't do anything. Nobody accused them of doing anything except working for the same company that Helwani did. And so then you get Dana White digging deeper on Monday morning. As long as I'm president, you know, he's banned for life, only to have other people within the UFC rescind it within the same day. It's like Dana looks like a complete jackass. Like, Dana's been on the record telling lies for a long time. The first time I can remember he absolutely got caught out was something to do with an event, I think it was UFC 103, where Dan Henderson and Rich Franklin were supposed to headline, or they did headline. I can't remember what the details were, but Dana told an outright, flagrant, provable lie in the build-up to that fight or in the aftermath of that fight. And ever since then, you know, people can just make a list of times that Dana White's been caught out. And when you're a public figure and your job is to communicate to the public, pretty soon you start looking like Baghdad Ali, you know, like the Allies are being destroyed as you watch the tanks roll into Baghdad behind his back. Like, there's...
Or a Bernie Sanders person who this
we're
midnight...
doing this thing.
Yeah, you wait.
Yeah. I mean, you know, that's the thing. You can tell lies for quite a while and get quite a ways with it, but eventually, when reality interrupts, boom. Now, okay, so they did that, but now this strategy of unleashing surrogates, like you've got Joe Rogan coming out and saying Ariel was told that people would be fired if he kept doing this, and Colin Cowherd calling him a paid shill, and it's an interesting tact. Like, is Ariel Helwani really public enemy number one for the UFC? Is that their biggest problem? I mean, most of the media, and this thing got covered in the LA Times, the Washington Post, NBC, Canada's biggest broadcasting service, Yahoo, even Kevin Aioli wrote a blistering op-ed attacking the UFC, and the consensus was this is Bush League. This is amateur hour stuff. And these are people who are trying to sell, rumored to be trying to sell their organization, you know, for billions of dollars. And one of the rumors is that the new buyer doesn't want Dana White. And after watching this, you have to go, oh, I can't imagine why, you know. And so, I don't know.
Under new management, it's like...
Yeah. It's remarkable self-ponage, and the fact that they're still digging deeper with Rogan and Cowherd. Now, that's surrogates, and they can say, hey, we can't control what Wildman Joe says. We can't stop Colin Cowherd from going on his Fox Sports 1 show and saying stuff. But it's like when you got the same guys, you got all these people putting out the same talking points. This is how the game is played. It's called surrogates or third-party advocates. That's clearly what they're doing. And my advice to them would be stop digging. Just let this one go. Like, you're going to have ace reporter scooping you on things, and it's going to get under your skin. You go, Eugene.
Here we go.
Oh man. You know, it's like, you remember when Katrina hit New Orleans, and I remember my prevailing thought was that people were in the streets or living out of refrigerator boxes, and I envisioned one lone homeless guy going, What? Man, I've been living out of a refrigerator box for fucking months. You know, I've been eating out of the garbage can. Rats have been my neighbors for months. What are you guys whining about, right? You got to understand what I'm saying without me actually coming out to say it. It's like
you can come out and say it. When was the last time you had credentials for a UFC event?
Last time I was credentialed for a UFC event was, I'd say, 7 years ago. 7 years ago.
You know how many times I've been credentialed for a UFC event?
How many?
0.
You, sir, are on track to be MMA Journalist of the Year because people...
Now, we've had Bloody Elbow has been credentialed. I've sent reporters to UFC events in the past, and they've been credentialed, but it's been few and far between, and they've never been very clear about why we weren't.
And it doesn't matter about credentialed or not, man. I still can't comfortably interview any of the guys in the top 5 without going through some management company like Zinkin. I mean, dude, look, I'm not going to claim unfair advantage, but you got if you're going to, how is it that you have to discover how much Russia weighs when you've been in Russia?
Yeah.
How does this confuse you? I mean, and let me tell you something else, mob style. If your advice is good advice, but if you think that's real advice, you're nuts. If you don't think the long extended reach and memory of the bald one will cover if you
It's not
trip.
even Baldwin, it's Lorenzo.
Yeah. We're talking Calabrian politics, Sicilian politics.
Don't get racial on this.
Hey, I'm just talking about. I do it too. There are guys who I'm laying in wait for from 1973. I'm waiting for these guys to slip. Kenny, also known as Rudolph. If I catch you slipping, I'm still waiting. I'm 53. 53. So good. You won a little battle, but this war is not over, my friend. So, but your advice is sound. At this point, they say diplomacy is saying nice doggy till you can get your hand on the rock. You go, our objective. Look, when I was at Apple, when Steve Jobs got back, right? In fact, he got back. I got back 3 months after I got there 3 months after he got back, and that place was a sieve in terms of information leaks. It was simple. He got his software guys to take time out from doing some serious coding on one of the early iOS versions, and he said, you know what? We're gonna lock this place down. We're gonna lock it down. And then he locked it down, and then he started sending out spurious rumors. And if you sent some shit like, okay, we're gonna have a new developmental meeting, and you emailed it to a friend, you were called in and dismissed. You can stop. I mean, look at this as a first salvo in a war of terror. What do you think? I mean, Kevin Iole, who was also incidentally during the 1 hour and 45-minute cryathon, was also semi-thrown under the bus. It needs to know that this will exert a chilling effect. And the reality of it is, what do other sports do? Do you have to sign a contract if you're covering NFL or the NBA? Do you have to sign the same kind of contract that you have to fight where you could get credentialed? You have never seen this contract because you have never been credentialed. The credential that they make you sign for, the contract that the UFC makes you sign for, I'm sure is anomalous to professional sports. But it's like Mr. Marcus, the porn star, said about a crying actress on one of his sets. She knew what the job was when she took it.
And that's the thing also about this whole situation. I think that people have been concerned or frustrated, angered, outraged over the disparate media reaction to Ariel versus Loretta Hunt and other journalists that have been not only thrown in the bus, but just like using the C word and just
But he did have to reel back the C word on Loretta. Although
no, he did. But the thing is, the fact is that what the difference here is, if you've been watching the sport for years, you will see that what Ariel admitted to wanting to be, and he did, I think, a phenomenal job at doing it, is positioning himself as the face of MMA journalism, the Howard Cosell.
Sixth time, I counted. It's not 5, it's 6.
And the fact that, now, here's the thing, regardless of whether one thinks that's justified or not, a lot of people are questioning. One guy says, Rick Hello said, should he return his awards because he was, he was doing PR. He admittedly was doing PR for the UFC. Now, here's the thing. The difference is Ariel Helwani is just like anything else in life. His presentation is very similar to me. It reminds me of, I'm not trying to say it's like in a diminutive standpoint, but there's a certain naivete or innocence or like a little brother. He just always strikes. He's glad to be there. You see the physical distinction between the optics are always amazing with him interviewing the fighters because he's clearly not a fighter. All right, so you have that kind of thing in place, right? So there's a certain following and projection that fans have with regard to Ariel Helwani. And when you see in the weigh-ins, I always thought, you know what? Why not? When they were talking about him, working for Zuffa or like, go to Bellator, he gets louder cheers at the weigh-ins than most of the fighters. I mean, he has developed himself as a personality. So you have a situation in place where the kind of treatment that he got, and the quick turnaround and this whole outcry is pretty unique to his whole brand. And so that's what I find interesting. And like Eugene said, if you think this is over, I mean, when listening to that interview too, there are a number of times I'm listening to it and I was watching it and like, okay, you see anyone that just, again, like a little brother, and like an older brother, older sibling, you're listening to things that are happening like, oh, that was a warning right there. That was a flag. Here's another flag. There's another flag. And I'm watching this thing like, who are you getting advice from? Like, I really felt like it was like a sibling of mine or a friend that just like naive is like, all these signs, there are all these red flags being thrown in your face. Yep. They want you to be the UFC shill. They don't want you to be journalist. You're working for the UFC. Yep. That's what they wanted. When they said like, and we're like, no, I don't want. I want to represent other people. And they're like, okay, you're a journalist. You can talk about other people. You understand that wasn't true acknowledgement or acceptance of what he wanted. You just constantly see it. And so one thing I would strongly suggest for him is, he really, I know this was about the UFC, but just for Ariel Helwani on the side, like, he really needs to look into who's giving him advice, guidance, and who he's bouncing stuff up against, especially at this stage. This stage is no joke. I mean, think about the three of us, as opposed to a lot of people I've watched also the media reaction, and you have people like, I don't know why a business would do this. I'm a journalist. I don't know why. And I'm like, you know what? I've worked closely enough with businesses, I've been at the table, and I've seen how these people operate, and so has Eugene and Nate. And not to say you got to talk to us, but you have to expand your circle to individuals that have been in the room, and not individuals reporting about what's in the room. Because what's going on in the room, what's going on behind closed doors, what you're not hearing, it's just like what Eugene said. This isn't over by any means. And that's the thing that's fascinating about this, and see what's going to happen with it.
I tell you, when I got in big trouble when I was the editor-in-chief of EQ magazine. I did a whole issue devoted. It's a music instrument studio magazine. I did a whole issue, devoted to microphones. A whole 125 some odd pages, microphones. Every single company microphone. I said I want it to be comprehensive. Now, I know as a journalist, if you pick it up and I'm saying nothing but good things about every single microphone, you're like, this is not a magazine, it's a fucking catalog.
Right.
So I encourage all my reviewers to be, I want 100% honesty. There was a company, I won't mention the company's name, well, mostly because I can't remember. but there's a company, we reviewed 5 of their microphones. This guy from LA described, he's a studio guy, he's recorded famous people. He described one of their microphones, which they were trying to position as a pro microphone, as a prosumer microphone. A small thing to you or me. I missed it. I mean, it was like, okay, we gave 4 of their mics good reviews, calling it a prosumer and saying it's a little too expensive. That's not killer. But these guys go to work every day, and they draw a salary. And every day they draw a salary that they don't sell a microphone is a bad thing for them. So I get word that they're going to pull $250,000 worth of advertising from across 3 publications because of this fucking review. And my boss comes in and goes, there's a trade show in Anaheim. You go to that trade show. You talk to those guys. I talk to those guys. They pull me behind the baffle, so they have the display. They pull me behind. And I guarantee you, had I not been 240 pounds and a fighter, they would have punched the fuck out of me. And I'm at practice, Oxbow practice, and I'm talking to my drummer, fuck those guys. I'm gonna smash the state. I'm doing my whole punk rock agitprop thing. And my drummer says to me, are you a fucking idiot? Are you a fucking idiot? What public trust are you defending? You know what the public trust you should be defending? The one of the guys who signed the checks. You, my friend, are wrong on this one. You're wrong on this one. It's a free magazine that goes to studios, and I was like, it rocked me a bit. I was like, wrong. So I go to guys at Tape Op, and I go, hey, man, Larry at Tape Op. I go, how do you handle this? He goes, I'll tell you what we do. If I don't like a mic, I'll give it to another guy on the staff. If Robert doesn't like the mic, I give it to another guy on staff. If 5 of us on the staff don't like the mic, we go back to the manufacturers and go, look, we can't say anything good about this, Mike. What do you want us to do? You know what that is? That's not cynical opportunism. That's playing fucking ball. And that's how, ultimately what happened. Ultimately, it didn't work out well for me. These guys never forgave me for this.
Yep.
Never, ever.
Yeah. On the back to the media reaction to the Helwani banning, it's twofold. One is Helwani's got this muscle of his own with his Twitter account, hundreds of thousands of followers, so he's immediately able to tell his side of the story. There's no situation before Twitter where you are doing a TV broadcast and you drag a reporter out of the building. In the old days, people would have read about that Monday morning as a little footnote. Why didn't we have Esterlin pictures, of the big event? People would have been scratching their head, and maybe there would have been a note.
Yep.
As is, Helwani breaks the news immediately, and it preempts the news about the main event. I mean, it literally overshadowed the main event on Twitter, and that's just reality. They created this. They're the ones that gave Helwani this platform and put him on network TV and all this, and now Ariel's done.
I made you, I can break you.
Yeah, but you can't always break what you make, and also
time will tell.
Also, the thing is, they have raised their profile enormously over the last 18 months. Now, they had the UFC, qua UFC was probably bigger around UFC 200 than it is now, as far as number of fans who are into the UFC.
Right.
But UFC fighters like Ronda Rousey and Conor McGregor have shown, hey, these people can be superstars that transcend the sport, and mainstream media starts paying attention. Mainstream media starts hearing about allegations that a reporter got shoved around backstage. They don't like that shit. You punch a New York Times reporter backstage, and I'm not saying anybody punched anybody. I don't know what happened backstage. But if you lay hands on a New York Times reporter or LA Times, they're coming after you because they take that shit for serious. And so they've been, you've had a lot more people paying attention to the UFC. There's rumors ESPN is going to buy the UFC or going to sign a deal to carry their, to broadcast their fights. That gets people's attention. When these people pay attention, then they hear these stories. Oh, Josh Gross from Sports Illustrated and ESPN got banned for life for what? Oh, Loretta Hunt from Sports Illustrated, she got what? They did what to her? And then they see him doing this to Ariel Helwani, and you know what? Everybody goes, I'm next. And that's at the point where now the UFC is learning you don't weigh more than Russia. And one of the shows Ariel Helwani was doing, I can't even remember the name of the show because I don't follow sports talk. But
ask Alexi why he's laughing.
No, go ahead, man.
Because Ariel does the show twice in 2 days. Very unusual for this guy to talk about UFC at all. Ariel starts going into his riff about, I'd rather be talking about Michael Bisping. He's like, I got to stop you right there, Ariel. I'm not giving any coverage to the UFC. If this is how they treat reporters, I'm not covering their product. And that is where they learn they don't outweigh Russia because the media machine is going to have bread and circuses for people, whether it's their brand of circuses or not. And they've got to play ball to a certain extent, too.
Yeah, you ever see what happens when they get a domestic violence call? Actually, I have a guy who just wrote...
It's a domestic violence call.
Well, let's say, actually, I'll switch up to something very real instead theoretical. There's a guy who wrote a piece for me called I Killed My Mother. And he actually killed his mother when he was about 12 or 13 years old. And it was one of those things where he said, later in court, his grandparents testified in his, it was a situation of aggressive, crazy abuse over years. And he's like, everybody knew. Everybody knew. I go, what happened when Child Protective Services came out? Well, my mother told me if I said anything, she would kill me. So they showed up, and I lied my ass off, and the second they left, I got beaten, It's like, sometimes bad people do bad things, man. When the parade dies down, when the huzzahs pass, when the solidarity moment, when the Norma Ray moment, they really like me passes, you still got guys with long memories who feel like they can't let it happen. They cannot let it happen. Why is Mystic Mac not fighting at the UFC 200? You gotta maintain control. You gotta. If you're holding control. Why do you think Assad is still in power? You got these guys don't roll. They do not roll over. Russia does not roll over.
Well, the other thing too is if the sale talks are very serious and they're in that certain mode, that's what kind of makes things worse as well, because we're not talking about long-term. Again,
Yep.
you have a situation where, in terms of what's going on behind closed doors UFC, right, which is the original question.
Mm-hmm.
Are we making an assumption that all of this was thought out in terms of the media strategy, in terms of the sales strategy? No. I don't. Who's giving advice? Who's saying, hey, look, let's just. As opposed to finding out, like, oh yeah, oh, you did what? Oh my God, okay. We've all been there. Like, as an attorney, as an advisor, you have those clients who plan with you what they're going to do, and everyone comes together and talks, and let's run this by this person, that person, try to figure out what we're going to do. Like, is this the best way of doing things? And then I've had clients who they do what the fuck they want to do, and you're in total damage control 24/7. You're like, fuck. Now, when you're in a situation in which they're looking to sell the company, in terms of long term, it's like, I don't give a fuck. Look, I'm only done with this shit. Like, they might not even think. Another thing that some people may be thinking too, super cynical, is, oh, you know what? If there seems to be if it's not as bright and shiny as it once was, it might seem a little more ripe for a purchase, because the perceived value, is it affected in terms of how they're conducting business? Are you going to wait and see how long the brand gets tarnished, or are you going to sweep in before they do something that damages it forever? So, again, it's going to be fascinating to see what the long and short-term impact of this is. So
I think the much more significant question coming out of it is, does this put me on the inside track for MMA Journalist of the Year? I think that's what the people want to know.
Keep those gasoline cans handy, Eugene. That's all.
I don't think it does, Eugene, is at least for this year, I think that he's totally going to get the sympathy. He might get a sympathy vote regardless of what he does this year. Maybe 2 years from now, but it'll be fascinating.
He might have locked himself in as MMA Journalist of the Year for life.
For life.
I wasn't going to do this, but I got to do a curveball because you brought up the whole.
I'm laughing because a guy just walked in here with a HoloLens and is doing shit in the background. That's ridiculous. Sorry. Okay.
All right, curveball. You're a Donald Trump staffer. Your boss, apropos of nothing, went after a judge in a case that had been postponed until after the election. Went after Judge Curiel, saying that he had a conflict of interest because he's Mexican and I'm building a wall. Then you tell the staff to be quiet and not mention Judge Curiel, not answer questions about Judge Curiel, not comment about Judge Curiel, and Trump contradicts you openly. Then the next day, Trump finally realizes, after Senator Kirk and multiple people unendorse him, that he won't be talking about Judge Curiel anymore either. And reads off the teleprompter in his speech, and sucks at reading speeches off teleprompters. What do? Do you stay on board SS Trump, or do you ride this death ship all the way home?
Who's going first here? Because
Alexi?
Oh, I think it goes down to borrow a line from Eugene, or train of thought: true believer versus cynical opportunist. If you really believe in what Trump is doing, wholeheartedly believe, you can't jump ship, right? Another thing is,
I'm not aware of any of the campaign professionals with Trump in that category, except perhaps Roger Stone, who is beyond believing in anything.
And the other situation is, like, do you view yourself, what kind of value are you putting on your brand by staying and hopefully seeing whether or not you can turn or make certain kinds of tweaks, right? As opposed to just jumping ship. I think it has to be just an exhaustive thing about what does the individual staffer, what are they projecting for their career? Is this an opportunity? Are they worsening their career by staying on? Can they make certain kinds of tweaks? I think that's what the question would be. Eugene?
Listen. Do you know? Here's a fun fact for you. Do you know that guys in the Third Reich, because we've got the Nazis in, the guys in the Third Reich, the smart Nazis were cutting deals in 1943. They believed the war was over in 1943. Now you had some guys who were not so swift on their feet, or maybe they were more true believers who wised up, but they started cutting deals early 1945. You know, what I'm saying is, and I tried to sell this morning at Jiu-Jitsu, and the Trump fans here didn't buy it. You gotta step outside and see what the weather is like, because it's fucking over. It is over, over, over for the Donald. It is over, man. And I didn't think he would make it this long, and I didn't think, but you have at this point now, how many wars can you fight? How many fronts can you fight this war? Even the jungle wants him dead. I can't think of a more significant way it's over. You know, and what's great about it is, if you want to talk about a lost battalion section, he doesn't fucking know it. He doesn't know it. You can't. I mean, if I'm this staffer, I realize it's over. It's 1943, and I'm cutting a smart deal, man. I'm cutting a smart deal. You know, I got to come out of this thing with something, and I'm not going to end up on the curio trash heap with this cat. No way. They're in disarray. People have been saying they don't have a campaign for a long time. Nobody believed it because he kept winning. Now separated. We're going into a dry season. Now when the primary season is over, we got months and months of open fields for him to make unforced errors, and he started out of the gate hard making them, you know. Right. And this thing with Curio, how many generations? I mean, this is straight up Third Reichian stuff. How many generations do you have to be a bona fide frickin' American? Now, the people who for whom that argument makes sense, like, yeah, of course, that guy's he goes home for the holidays, he's got speaking Spanish over Thanksgiving, if they even have Thanksgiving in Spanish land. Yeah, okay, that crowd, they're not going to be swayed anyway. I got a photo on my phone of one of the guys on my fight team throwing punches at the Trump rally. But the reality of it is, those guys are a fucking minority. No way. It's
but another thing, though. Well, here's the thing. Another side.
If you don't smell it, you know, yeah, there's a good likelihood you're going to get subsumed by a wave that is much to your surprise.
But there's another opportunity here, right? So you have in terms of the different paths that one can take. One path is, I'm going to stay on until it goes under, and I'm going to write a book about it, or I'm going to do my documentary film, like a Wiener-esque kind of thing, like a Wiener movie, or you know.
That didn't benefit Wiener.
What did you say?
No, it didn't
benefit Wiener.
No. I'm not saying for Wiener. I'm talking about the staffer. Like, you know, I'm there. Like, I'm witnessing this. Let me tell you, the final days of Trump. You know, I was there. I didn't jump ship. Let me tell you the crazy shit that was happening. You know, this is what's going on with this and this and this. It was a clusterfuck. There's always that opportunity that exists within anyone that's a part of a huge, horrible. Right. So that's another. But the question is, again, like, what kind of trajectory does one have for one's career? What about you, Nate? What would you?
Well, I want to point out one thing, that the last fig leaf Trump is clinging to is saying, I'm not saying this because he's racist. I'm saying it because he's in La Raza, and this is a left-wing radical group that's been going after me, blah, blah, blah. Well, he's either deliberately or unknowingly conflating the National Council of La Raza, which is an activist political group, which has gone after him, with the La Raza Lawyers of California, which is just a lawyers association based on, there's Irish ones too. There's Greek American lawyers associations. The La Raza Lawyers of California is a completely anodyne thing. Like, I shouldn't go into this. My wife had a coworker who conflated NAACP membership with Klan membership, and now he wonders why he's not a prosecutor anymore. Attention, asshole! The Klan kills people. Then NAACP wants to have coffee at Woolworths. Like, that's the big difference. And so, you know, and one other thing about this, the media didn't bat an eye when Trump proposed the biggest ethnic cleansing, not in U.S. history, in world history, deporting millions of people. They didn't bat a fucking eye. They're like, well, that'd be too bad for the guy who mows my lawn and the lady who cleans my house, but we'll find new ones. But as soon as that goes after a judge, Oh,
But this is Hitler thing. 25 million people is a statistic, But the guy who, the Jewish guy who assassinated the Hungarian diplomat. Well, that's the name and the face. That's reality,
yeah. But it's also a class thing, and they see that judge as a person in a way that these lawnmowers and these legions of restaurant workers and other people they don't care about. I just thought that was telling that the media gets an uproar, and I also think it's telling that they wait until now to go after Trump on this shit when they could have done this at any point. They basically pulled the trap door out from under it.
Yeah, come on. When were you born, Nate? I'm sorry. You think it's strange it happened now? Really?
It's awfully convenient that it happened now.
Man, good for you. That's what I like.
Clinton bragging about how he talked to Trump and encouraged him to get in the race. And then you got the AP announcing the race for Clinton, which I think we're going to get to later. And it just makes it look like the media had it all planned out.
Yep. Well, there's some theorists that thought,
The Trump fans here believe it's the media. I say, any poor guys who own any media? Man, this is the machine. This is the machine giving itself a douche. That's what's happening. Sorry.
They're douching a douche right out of the.
And just to show I'm not particularly partisan about this. I'm also addressing this to the Bernie fans out there. It's like, hey, you know what that smell is, Bernie fans? That's coffee. Wake up, breathe deeply. It's coffee. You're little. Hey, I understand your pain. I voted for John Anderson. I got you. I was a big John Edwards fan. I got you. But machinery is speaking to you, and if you're not listening, you're going to be on the wrong side of it.
Yep, and are we going to? And do not repeat the stupid, bungled voting that took place during Bush versus Gore, like for Nate. It's the same thing. The same guys. Well, I'm voting for the same. It's the same kind of guy I'm voting for.
That is simply fucking canard. Even by the official vote count, Gore only lost by a few hundred votes.
No, I know, but still.
Blaming Nader is such a fucking cop-out.
No, I didn't say I'm blaming Nader. I didn't say Nader. I said voters who say there's no difference between the two. And then when Bush comes in, he starts doing stuff, and people are like, I didn't know he was going to do that. I had no clue he was going to do that.
It's not their fucking fault that Gore didn't fight for that election. Gore's the one who got voted more votes than Bush. Whether or not he won the Electoral College, nobody disputes more Americans voted for Gore than Bush. Yep. And Gore concedes for the good of the country. And like my privileged White House was all like, well, that's what you got to do, I guess. Good sport, Al, good sport. And then, when Fair 9/11 came out and and Michael Moore showed all these black people protesting desperately because they knew how bad a fuck job this was, and Gore fucking abdicated his responsibility.
Look, I agree, but here's the thing. So this is that's what you thought when you saw all that stuff going down. I didn't have to wait for the Michael Moore movie. I saw what was happening. We all saw it. You didn't have to wait for that movie. We all saw what was happening, all right? And what my message was from that, growing up in Washington, D.C., going to Howard University, look at different historical movements and people talking revolution and stuff, okay? We saw what happened when an election was taken from you. And what did people do the next day? Went to work. All right. So all this talk for me, it was a teachable moment of all this talk about, with the revolution, I'm gonna do this and so and so. And then guess what?
Well, revolutions have to go back to work. Revolutions have to have leaders, and when you've got leaders like Al Gore that hire Warren Christopher to go up against James Baker, I mean, are you fucking? This isn't Yoda versus Darth Vader, man. This is Yoda's smaller brother with no lightsaber, who's blind and deaf, and you're rolling him in there to enjoy his retirement against James Baker, who's like a serious badass. This is just.
I ever tell you the story about Warren Christopher's daughter?
No.
Okay. Go right ahead. Nah, I'm not gonna do it.
No, I heard it. Go on ahead, man. I was trying to figure out who the identity of this person, whose daughter it was, and now you confirmed it.
Yeah.
Mind you, Alexi.
Yeah, there's a kid there in the background. Now you creep me out, so I'm not gonna say anything now.
No, you can't.
But you know,
I have my headset on. I can't hear anything, man.
But listen, let me tell you something. There are those who say that Gore was also in on the kill take. Otherwise, why go for the okey doke?
Yep. Why just go? Why go? Give a shit.
Why doesn't he give a shit? That's what we're
He's
talking
a
about.
billionaire anyway. I mean, look at what happened to Gore afterwards. Look at what happened to Gore afterwards.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a
Two
difference
parties,
after all.
both run by oligarchs. Working people are not going to have any representation.
Yeah, man, he got an Oscar out of it. So
And he got divorced, got himself a new young girlfriend.
Hey, well, speaking of A's, Eugene, you're Brock Lesnar. After cashing out as a former UFC heavyweight champion and making the deal of a lifetime with the WWE, explain the PR justification for your return to the octagon at UFC 200.
Man, the closest I could come to is what I said on Knuckle Up. This is straight up bullshit. It's bullshit. It's bread and circuses for the people. I mean, how old are you? How the fuck old are you? The only thing that redeemed it in my mind is that they didn't give him Dada 5000 or whatever dude's name is. They gave him Mark Hunt, where somebody did a meme right away of Lesnar sitting there staring to the camera and goes, "Wait, what? Mark Hunt?" What, was Dada 5000 busy? That's a fight. Yeah, yeah, no. So, I mean, I would believe it. I would think there was something behind it. I would find it compelling in some way, shape, or form. If it wasn't for one fight, what the fuck is that about? Now there's some back office dealing that has confused even me. You know, Vince McMahon's press release, WWE, the big battle cage thing, fake wrestling thing that comes up right after UFC 2. I don't know what's going on. With the CM Punk thing, I don't know. Am I excited to see him fight Mark Hunt? Well, am I excited to see him fight? No. Am I excited to see him fight Mark Hunt? Yes. So you got me. And I'm not 12 years old. You know, if you're asking what the PR benefit of it is, I can't for the life of me. I mean, Brock's motivation probably is about $10 million, right. And I'm prone to say, man, the guy's already got $10 million. What is it? Everybody always needs more, apparently. You know, so that's what we got going. But is it something interesting, compelling, or now that Mark Hunt's involved, it's interesting, compelling. But it doesn't stop me from saying it. I think it's straight up bullshit. It's bread and circuses.
And bullshit for its brand as well. So in terms of his brand, it's
for one fight. What is that fucking? He might as well get into a war at the store, a scuffle at 7-Eleven by the juniper bushes. I mean, what is one fight? What is that? What is that?
It's several $1 million. That's the thing.
That's what it is.
And what do you think about it, King Nate, in terms of the PR justification?
Well, I mean, now who am I supposed to be again? Brock?
You're Brock Lesnar. I mean,
It's money. It's cash money. Here's the deal. The WWE moved mostly off of pay-per-view and onto their own streaming service. The UFC put a foot in the water with the streaming service, but they're not cannibalizing their pay-per-view at all. They're not undercharging the pay-per-view. With WWE, they went all in on their streaming. They burned their former cable partners. And that means that while their net revenue might be bigger, and I'm not a WWE business expert, check Dave Meltzer for this, but I do read Meltzer, and my impression is that they don't have the big-time events that you can slice off a $3 million bonus for Brock Lesnar anymore. They don't have any event that really justifies having a Brock Lesnar on the card because he wants a big payday. He doesn't want to do the touring shows. Right. He doesn't want to be on the weekly TV shows. He wants to be a big event, big card, big money, big Brock. And this is a way for them to shut Brock up, fill his mouth with cash, Zuffa cash even, not theirs, and keep him around for when they do need him. And that's all this is. This is about the care and feeding of Brock Lesnar's enormous appetite to earn money and his ability to earn money. And the UFC did it because they needed to burnish UFC 200 since they booted Conor McGregor off the card. And so, you know, John Jones and DC 2 is stale. It's reheated hash, and they needed something to make UFC 200 big. And I think this was excellent. They were supposedly trying to get Fedor, and that's why they didn't announce an opponent for him right away. And Mark Hunt's one of those things where if Brock can't get Mark down or gets him down and can't finish him, Brock is going to be in a world of embarrassment. Because if you thought he looked ridiculous running away from Cain Velasquez, wait till Mark Hunt hits him.
Right.
However, if he puts Mark Hunt on his back, which he has an excellent chance of doing, he's got an excellent chance of winning that fight. So it's an interesting sporting proposition. And I'm all for it. I love it. It's good for my business.
You know, there are a lot of interesting sporting propositions, like me wrestling Joanna Jędrzejczyk. It's pretty interesting, right?
I mean, sure, I love Andy Kaufman.
Yeah, okay.
But do you love Michael Bisping, King Nate? Because you're him, newly crowned UFC middleweight champion. You dropped Luke Rockhold to win the title, and after the post-fight press conference, you dropped an anti-gay slur. You immediately realized...
Hold on. Who dropped the slur? I thought it was Rockhold.
It was Bisping. No, Bisping's
I got it confused.
And then he immediately...
He said, oops, I shouldn't have said that. He didn't say, oh, I'm deeply sorry. He said, oops, I shouldn't have said that.
Right, delete that. But it's your fourth offense. And as the man in the mirror, with gold around his waist, is it time to take a look at yourself and then make a change?
You asking me or you, Jane?
I'm asking you, King.
No way. Bisping needs to stick, double down, be a complete asshole. I would avoid the homophobic slurs or any racial slurs. But otherwise, play ball, be the biggest dick you want to be. You're the champ. Revel in it. Make people hate you. Be a star attraction. This is your moment. I don't know how long it's gonna last. He definitely shouldn't have dropped the F-bomb. And I think that was a Freudian slip, man. I mean, at the point where you're dropping this stuff every time you do a tirade, people are starting, how big an issue is this for you? I mean, it's like for guys our age, we grew up dropping the F-bomb all the time with nobody saying, hey, you know, that's really offensive. Some of us like have internalized, oh, you know, that means a stick that you put on a fire. And why do you call gay people that? Because they're killable? Because you can just kill them and get away with it? I mean, you know, you read about like the Bout Time cocktails in New Orleans in 1973 where somebody sets a gay bar on fire. Dozens of men die, and the newspaper coverage is like jokes about weenie roasts and shit like that.
Or Reagan calling it God's revenge, and they're not doing anything about for AIDS for 8 years. It's not funny.
And so it's something that if you're, you know, I don't want to be all social justice warrior and everything, but there's a reason that polite people aren't saying that word anymore. It's because it's fucking hurtful to people who really are getting beaten in the streets over their sexuality. And that's not cool. And so stop it. Like, I think he does need, as a person, it would behoove him to check himself and check that kind of language and what he's putting out there. But as far as being a dick while he's champion, dick it up, man. That's your brand. Be as big a dick.
Dick it up.
Yeah, I mean, it was totally ungracious the way he behaved and asinine. Fine.
Oh, you know, when people would accuse me of such like behavior, I would say you're looking at this the wrong way. You know, what you need to think of is not how much of an asshole Eugene is, but how much of an asshole Eugene could be. You know, I mean, he gets in the ring at the cage and he goes, I know I'm supposed to be gracious here. Actually, I'm not going to be an asshole, which was a way of saying I'm going to go for asshole light. You know, by calling his shot like that, he's copped to asshole light, and believe me, the only reason he hasn't gone full asshole on this is because he doesn't want to give the guy any head of steam. You know, like I'm the kind of fighter before I'm like smiling, patting the guy in the back, asking how his kids are doing. I want to disarm him. I don't want him coming in angry against me. I want him to say, you know, Eugene's a nice guy, and then you know Eugene digs his chin into the eye socket. He's like, hey, this is not what a nice guy does. What's happening? You know, so it's too late. Everybody, you know, Bisping the groin puncher, Bisping the eye poker, Bisping the guy who Dan Henderson needed to shut up. Yeah, everybody knows it. I mean, you know, I have friends. There's a friend of mine who's gay. He actually got me off of using the word cocksucker. He's like, look, do you like having your cock sucked? I was like, well, sometimes. You know, he's like, so it's not really a bad thing, is it? I go, no, so why do you use it as a curse? I was like, you got me on that one. You know, I need to rethink my approach to life. And he even got me with motherfucker. He's like, you know, have you had sex with women with kids? I go, yes, I've had sex with women who've had kids. He goes, and I bet it was all right. I go, yes, it was probably all right. He goes, why do you use that one? I go, man, you're leaving me very few choices here. You know, he goes, it's your job. You're an artist. Come up with something creative. I got you. So yeah, drop the F-bombs. You know, we don't need to hear it in this day and age. But I'm gonna go. I'm going nuts. Why not? Why?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, no. Dick is a mild word for what I'd suggest. You know, I would start. I mean, because because this was the most exciting that we've ever seen Rockhold. Rockhold, I mean, yeah, no, I'm talking about Rockhold. I'm talking about Rockhold. Like when he was fighting Tim Kennedy, they made a joke about, oh, we're the nice guys. This was the hottest I've ever seen Rockhold, and it was a look that I liked. And if that's what you need a Bisping to get that out of him. If I'm Bisping, I'm dig down deeper because I want to double my take. I'm talking about Rockhold's mother. I'm talking about his team. I'm talking about his siblings. I'm talking about whatever. I'm because I gotta go. If I'm gonna go down, I'm going down big. And that's.
But you're avoiding the whole. You're not doing any apologies for the slur.
Yeah.
Because also he has a broadcasting gig. I mean, if you're talking about a purely, if it's not within himself to think like, okay, he's messed up.
He immediately apologized, and he needed to do that. And in other words, he's got to get that story. He's got to get that story behind him.
Yeah, he's actually very lucky.
He's got to get it. He's got to get it right behind him. You know.
Bisping actually benefited from Helwani becoming the focus instead of him being the focus.
Yeah.
He had been the only. If that had been the only negative thing, there would have been plenty of people out there who'd like to go after the UFC on that. So, although to get conspiraversatile, now that they're legalized in New York, you notice the culinary union's not going after them like they used to anymore. So there's nobody pushing those stories in the media like there used to be. So, there you go.
Pushing.
Look for the union label. Sorry, man.
Yeah.
You're Judge Aaron Persky.
A classmate of mine.
Oh. Are you recusing yourself?
No, I'm not recusing myself. I didn't like him. So
you recently sentenced Brock Turner to 6 months in county jail for 3 felony sexual assault convictions, saying a prison sentence would have a, quote, severe impact, end quote, on Turner and assuring the public Turner will, quote, not be a danger to others, end quote. Your actions have made you a magnet for criticism with a petition drive underway to remove you from office. Do you take any steps to restore your public image?
Oh, yeah, you take some steps. It's called fueling up the jet. You fuel up the jet, you fly to the Cayman Islands, and you hope that your money can fucking follow you, man. He's never, ever coming out of this. There is no, if I'm his PR, if I'm directing his PR effort, I quit. You got Jezebel against you. You got BuzzFeed against you. You got a petition now that's over 400,000 people. They go, well, the guy's on the ballot. He's running unopposed. He's probably going to get it. You got state legislators, piling on top. You got Gloria Allred asking questions. There's still civil court. And finally, after 8 or 9 articles and as many days on top of this idiot's father's letter, you got the word finally started to appear in the press. Appeal, there's double jeopardy. Maybe they can't go to, but there are other charges, man. When they want your booty, they get your booty. And to take a line from the father, it was if it's only 20 minutes in prison. Hey, what's the big deal?
20 minutes of action.
20 minutes of action. If his son is if his son is at Pelican Bay. And, they have a way with his anus. Hey, 20 minutes, big deal. In fact, I would offer to the father and the son that they could get as drunk as they want and leave me have at their anuses for about 20 minutes to see if it made a difference, because it clearly doesn't make a difference if they're unconscious. So Persky should have recused himself. Persky, the Stanford athlete. Persky, the Stanford lacrosse player. Persky, very possibly a fraternity member. I'm not quite sure. I don't remember if he had been a fraternity member. But this man should have recused himself from the get-go. And the fact that the prosecutor didn't make these connections was a good travesty of a mockery of a sham. When people will start taking it seriously? People start taking it seriously if the father of the daughter stabs this guy in the eyes, like I might have.
Now, we can't advocate vigilante justice.
Said if.
If that's all, I'm just making it clear that we're not advocating vigilante justice.
Right. Then maybe
everybody
people
watching wishes it would happen. That's the
no, but there's a difference between application and interpretation. So Eugene,
correct.
Right. So what about you, King? What's your?
I think Eugene is right. The dude is manifestly unqualified to sit on the bench. Like, if you can't tell that a guy who had to be dragged off the unconscious body of a young woman by a passerby is
Two
a danger to
passersby.
others. Yeah, two passerby. And then like the victim's letter is so poignant and powerful.
Yep.
And it's not just BuzzFeed and Facebook
Jezebel.
and Jezebel that people are fucking CNN spent 35 minutes live on the air reading the victim's letter. It's that powerful.
Yep.
And when you're getting that kind of bad media, it's because you did something bad and you're a rancid asshole and you need to get off the bench. You know, I'm not going to say what I really think the guy ought to do with his life, but he does not need to be judging cases. He has no judgment. I mean, anybody who has a daughter or a son, anybody could be a victim of a crime like this, knows that plenty of 18-year-olds get shit-faced drunk.
Yep.
Very few of them drag a helpless person behind a dumpster and insert pine needles into their body. I mean, what the fuck kind of sick fuck bullshit is this? And I don't care how fast he swims. And the other thing is, like the victim said, she thought he was going to plead guilty and apologize.
Yep.
She would have been fine with 6 months in county jail if he was sorry for what he'd done. Instead, Daddy hires a big legal team, and legal team does what legal teams do in these defense cases, which is a whole nother very naughty issue. I believe people have a right to defense, even aggressive defense. But there's something sleazy about putting a young woman through the full treatment of how much did you have to drink? How long was your skirt? Were you wearing panties? Did you talk to your boyfriend that night? Did you fuck your boyfriend that night? Were you going to fuck your boyfriend that night? Why did you call this guy? Why did you call that? That is a form of assault also. And when you are as unself-aware as the father is, that you write a letter pitying your son and yourself, when you could have avoided all this by not hiring the Attack Dog legal team, all I have to say is fuck you too, asshole. Like, no wonder you raised a son like this. 20 minutes of action? Like, and the problem is sexual promiscuity and drunkenness? It's like, dude, what about consent? Like, did you ever tell your kid that not every girl in the world wants any part of him? I mean, it's staggering. So, you know.
And to me, I feel semi-vindicated because of the fact that, you know, it bookends my Stanford experience with a classmate of mine as a judge, you know, telescoping me back to 1984. You know, these, I mean, it was discombobulating for me as a New York kid to come, first of all, to immerse myself in California racial politics after growing up in New York City, as well as the whole Stanford experience. And, you know, you see how fucking disgusting and pernicious it is. You know, we telescope from 1984 to now. Now this guy, a classmate of mine, is a judge. And it's not, it is really like that Eddie Murphy skit. You don't believe it? Look, do you know, and I know, did you see how many times it came up that the guys who stopped the assault were two Swedes? And I'm like, interesting, it's Swedes. Well, it's keep coming up that they're Swedes. And I was starting to think, you know, if I had been walking Popeye that night and saw and interrupted the action, do you know that this would have been a cat's paw for fucking defense attorneys? Let's look at the man who stopped this assault. Oh, Eugene Robinson. Here's a picture of him with his band Oxbow. You know, oh, he used to run as a quasi-porn site, Skull Game. Maybe that is that what really happened? He rescued her. I mean, you know, it was fine. You have a perfect storm of blonde hair, blue-eyed Swedes. But you know, but again, man. Money is dangerous, and that these guys were dangerous in 1984, and they're dangerous now. You think that this is new on Stanford campus? Shit used to happen like that. I don't even want to. The football player fraternity, and there was no internet, no Twitter, no Jezebel. There was nothing but dropping out of school and hoping to start again somewhere else for the girl.
Right.
Not the football players who went on to lucrative pro contracts. So. You know, it's got
the show on the road.
Yeah.
So one thing that has been around, was around then and when you were in school.
Curveball!
Around. Oh. Curveball.
Maria Shaparova. Suspended 2 years after a positive doping test. Who thinks about tennis players taking performance-enhancing drugs? Yet it happened. And I'd like, okay, so let's see. You're Maria Sharapova. What do you do to rehabilitate your image now that you've been popped with the dirty?
Well, she already had an issue months ago that we dealt with. So if this is the second, if this is
It's the
unrelated
same
to
one,
that,
but the suspension went down now.
oh, there's a suspension
This
for
is the
that.
sentencing for that
So
same.
she finally
the
received
melodonium or whatever.
Yeah.
That weird Russian shit. Nobody knows quite what it does, but all the Russian athletes seem to be big believers in it. So.
You mean the one I have in my bag right here?
So what do you do with that, Nate?
If you're her, you do your sentence, man. I mean, do your time and stay in shape. She's still relatively young. She can get back out there. I doubt she gets the big kind of sponsorship deal she did. You might look into rebranding, talk to Hollywood people, see what kind of opportunities are out there. The world is your oyster. You got a lot of latitude. You got nothing to lose at this point.
That's
so,
true. And she's already rich, so she can look into does she want to do a redemption story, you know.
Yeah, like I told you yesterday, I'm not feeling. I want to feel sorry for somebody. I feel sorry for us.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's why it echoed again.
So, is that the Lost Battalion? I think that's the Lost Battalion.
It's a Lost Battalion calling.
Yeah, well, I said it at the top of the hour. I think that the biggest entry into the Lost Battalion is Trump, man. I think he's dead. And the guys here denied it. The Trump fans were like, oh no. It's like, man, if you have to have a certain level of sensitivity, but if you can't feel it, you're crazy. You're crazy. I really can feel it. Yeah, who's echoing? How's that happening? Okay, it's you, Nate. Yeah, that's much better. Yeah. So I mean, like I said, it's like in the old punk rock days when some guy from outside the club would come in and he thinks he's in the mosh pit, you know, that moshing around and like he just thinks, oh, somebody bumped into me. What he hasn't seen is that one person has gone like this. Get him. And so pretty soon he takes one hit. Oh man, this is great. Takes another hit. Oh shit. Oh boy, and next thing you know, you got 20 on 1. That's what's happening. You know, teleprompter, backing up the judge. You know, you got until November now, buddy. I don't give a shit what Bernie does. You know, Hillary is all, you know, all eyes on you, baby. So, so you are. I mean, again, the fact that he doesn't know it, strange. I mean, he's in a position where now he's got to go. He's got to take the ride, but man, it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah. Well, that's our show. Thanks for joining us. Follow us on Twitter, Eugene S. Robinson, at Kid Nate, at Alexi Old. Give us a thumbs up, Eugene.
I mean, I've been ready. I got the thumbs up.
That's a flicking finger action.
Yeah. Well, I actually can't use my thumb. I think it's fractured.
Hey, there we go.
I'm gonna do some telemedicine. Could somebody who's like an orthopedic look at this? Look how swollen it is. I think it's fractured, right? Does it get fractured there? Text me or tweet me.
And also leave comments on YouTube in addition to that. Subscribe to MMANation.com on YouTube, MMA Nation on iTunes, visit Bloody Elbow, read Eugene at Ozzy.com, and be sure to check out all three of us on Amazon.com. We'll be back next week with another installment of If I Did It, and we don't know what we're going to be discussing yet because the PR mistakes have yet to be made.